So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path. And that will make all the difference.
Episode of Connecting the Dots. My name is K.Short, your host. And as you know, we're in season 1 right now, and we are getting to know entrepreneurs. As we've talked about in the last episode with Jules, the definition of entrepreneur can be a vast, wide range of them, but it's also evolving into new definitions. And so I'm so excited to bring on this next guest who I recently met while we're watching this, we met in early April. We met at a Creative Mornings in San Diego. If you don't know what Creative Mornings is, definitely check it out. We actually, in San Diego, if you're here and when you're here, we have one of the largest chapters in the nation. But it was actually the first one I've gone to in like over a year. And so attending it, there's this little moment where folks are able to get in line and pitch themselves about the things that they're working on. And so I remember this vibrant young little person was getting all excited, jumped on stage and was like talking about being a digital nomad and looking for common spaces for folks to gather. Particularly co-working spaces is the word that stood out to me because, as some of you all know, I was in the process of creating a co-working space through my church. And so, I was like, I want to bring that to them and give them something, just offer them something. And so I literally approached them and was like, hey, do you want to go on a field trip? And so thankfully, since it was right down the street, we went on a field trip and it just kind of built some momentum. We talked about what it meant to be a digital nomad. We filmed our first episode and it was like boom, bada bing. And I feel like my relationship with her, it's about this nowness. Like, let's just do it now. Let's just do it now. And I love being able to be with our next guest here. And so just to give you all a little bit of an intro of Miss Kenise, she traded her stable 9-to-5 university property management job on the East Coast for the chance to pursue her dreams as a traveling writer, living the digital nomad lifestyle on the West Coast. With a passion for exploration and cultural immersion, Kenise thrives on the road, valuing connections and richness of diverse experiences, and as a result is building a community of local digital nomads in San Diego to support them not only in thriving, but to create a life that aligns with their deepest values and aspirations. Also a content creative educator in the health and wellness space, she's on a mission to help others access clean, high-quality, raw superfood drinks while mentoring those in starting their own health and wellness online brand. And then I was going to read the rest of the text that you sent me. But no, that is it. So let's go ahead and welcome Kenise to the show. What's good, girl? How you doing over there? Look, I love you so much. I'm even going to do a little fun little excerpt for you over here. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, I'm
ready for this. Tell me if you can hear it. How fun is that, huh? Oh, Kenise, how's it going? How's your Sunday going so far?
Sunday's going so well. I was in San Diego. The sun is always shining. It just has some watermelon. So my system is just up and running, feeling vibrant. I'm feeling happy. So, and I'm on this call with K.Short. So it's like, come on.
Yes,
Sunday,
yes.
short. So really just tapped in, feeling really just alive.
Sis, I want to be real with you. I want to ask you this question. You have been popping around San Diego. You've been meeting a lot of people. When I saw you and I met you and as I continue to get to know you, I was like, this is literally like my twin. I was like, she's doing the thing. I was like, and I haven't met anyone. And I don't know, it's because you got that East Coast blood. What's good. But I was like, I haven't met anyone who's just as great of a connector as I am. And so you're meeting a lot of different kinds of people in San Diego. First and foremost, what's your first impression?
My first impression has been like, why haven't I not done this sooner? Like, why was I so locked up in the house? I mean, I was in that healing stage for a while too, just really working on myself and my inner work. And when it was called to just get out and start meeting people, that's when the ping went off, and I was just on this mission to just connect with people in real life, especially after you're building up social media platforms and online businesses. It gets easy to just like live your life online. And that feeling of just desire for like a human voice or touch was really like priority right now. So that's why I started getting out into a lot of events, and I realized there's a lot happening in San Diego. There's a lot of people here. There's like millions of people here. It's just like its own its own system here. So it's been really nice getting out and meeting actual people like you.
Yeah, and that's my second question because we talked a little bit, and you said that creative mornings that you literally were just getting out, and this was just like a month ago, right? You're like
Yeah.
just coming out of this season. Tell us more about like I'm like just gonna jump into it. Tell us more about
Yeah.
the season you're just coming out of. Like
Yeah.
what would you classify as that season, and where do you feel like you're headed right now?
Yeah. So the season so background story is I'm a new entrepreneur, new creative, new to San Diego, new to digital nomad, and new to like there's a lot of newness right now.
Mm.
So there's a lot of transition happening at the same time. When I went through this period of what felt like breakdown, like the low, and I realized now looking at it hindsight, it was the ebbs and flows of entrepreneurship. And then that's when I started making sense of this creative world that I'm living in right now. And that was a lot that had to do with just feeling burnt out through social media and having to wear so many hats, which is like you are the editor, you're the camera person, you are the writer, you are the marketer and the SEO, and you're everything. And so that part really took a toll on me, like at first. And so that season I'm getting out of is Transitionary, and that was me honing in on like my own self and figuring out what do I like to do and how can I show up for Kenise first, because Kenise is always trying to go out there and help everybody else and be there and just make everybody's dreams come true. And then I'm sitting like, is mine even coming true, or am I just so focused on you all making sure that you're good? And so that's been where I have to recognize that I need to slow down and tap into my own self. So that season of me is coming out of like recognizing that that's entrepreneurship, just crisis is what I call it. And where things feel like they're going now is just clarity, because I was in a space and a creative project that I was just living in, and that took a toll on me mentally. So once I pivoted, it was like I just felt clarity, I felt ease, I felt happiness. So that's where things are right now. It's just really recognizing like what doesn't feel good and stop doing what doesn't feel good.
That part. Okay, you said something that I was like, oof, that got me because and I'm wanting again having to ask in terms of you being, a step ahead of me, steps ahead of me, but you said that you were helping other people make their dreams come true. Tell me more about that part. Like, what do you think? It's just the educator in us? Do you think, like, what do you think that is?
You paused. Hello?
Were you able to hear that?
No.
Okay, I said there was something that you said in that last comment about helping other people make their dreams come true.
Okay.
And that resonated with me because I feel like that has been my past frustration in the season is like, and the reality is a lot of people aren't ready to make them come true. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm curious and I want us to go back on why this may be, but what do you think that is for us personally? Do you think it's the educator in us? Do you think that there's some sort of value in there that that wants us to help other people in that way? Like, what do you think that is?
Yeah, I think it's part of it's just the empathy, this just a personality type, I'd like to say, that resonates with this desire of just seeing people do well. Like I'm always a person who loved watching the type of shows like the rags to riches. So just knowing that that's my type of shows to watch, inevitably and naturally, that's what I put out. So I'm like, oh, I just want everybody's lives to change because we can all change our lives at the same time. And that's when a lot of the group that I have right now, which is the platform that I'm forming, has a lot to do with that, because I realize just being in this space of you are this creative, creating something creative. And oftentimes you don't always see the full vision, or you don't have the people around you to stimulate some certain actions or information. And so it becomes you just with you. And that piece kind of can sometimes take a toll. And so the part of building other people's dreams is like building it with yourself as well, to like building someone's dream while you're building your own, I find to be like the most rewarding. And that piece is stemming from the platform that I'm building with the digital nomads because I recognize that there's no greater reward than to have somebody like building with you. It's like having a relationship, a partner. We all desire people. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is it's just a basic need. And so whether it is relationship, intimacy wise, or in business, we do desire people to be with. So I think this really does come down to just a personality type as well too, that is just yearning for just connection. And that's how it's like sometimes portrayed and fulfilled, is let me go on and help other people first before they help myself. But it's just sometimes you can really just run into burnout, which is what was happening before. But now it's just cultivating a group of people who already know that they want something great, and they're looking for other people who want something great, so that energy and that feeling of like greatness is just always around, and that propels people to be and just constantly keep staying in alignment with their visions. That's the piece here that I'm like focused on right now.
Yeah, which is so exciting, and I want to dive deeper into that. But, I wouldn't be the best host if we didn't give a background as to how you even got to this point in the first place. I'm thinking about young people watching this. I'm thinking about future students watching this. I'm thinking about our younger selves watching this. So why don't you give us a little bit of a background of, where you came from, what's made you who you are today, and what led you to this digital nomad life. Only also so we can give some correlation as to how similar we are and how many of the similar jobs we've had. And also potentially giving them a little tidbit of what's potentially being created here in San Diego as we continue to help each other build our dreams along with others. Sis, first and foremost, I wanna commend us on our tenacity, our perseverance, not giving up.
Always.
In this moment, I was like, you know what? I was like, I'm sure I'm thinking about it, like even in entrepreneurship, when you get one little glitch, right? When it's not going out the way you want to, is this the point where you just like, And I even texted you, I was like, maybe it's not in our favor. And like having to navigate between still going through it and being like, maybe it's just asking for some patience. Maybe it's just asking to see if we really want it. Maybe it's just, or is it, hey, maybe it's just not in our favor and we should just go where it flows. Like, how do you, since we're here in it, how do you typically navigate when you come to a crossroads?
Yeah, so for me, it's like if it's a problem that's solvable and we can try at least 3 more times, then I say we go for it. Right? We just keep going for it. And at some point, if it's really, because we've had some situations like that when you hop on and it is just, this technology is not working. And you can tell at that point, But if the person's willing to just hang in there for a little bit, I'm usually like, okay, let's try it again. Like, how much time do you have? Right? So that's why it's really super helpful. It's just because the reason why we'd end it is because we're being considerate of someone else's time. But more than likely, we're just like, well, let's just try it. I'm always in the spirit of let's just try it again.
Yeah.
So we're here.
We are here. I love that. Thank you for that. I mean, this right here is the perfect example, perfect lesson. Y'all are probably, I had to edit this up, but yeah, there's been some tech issues, and that's okay, but we're still here. And so this is literally the perfect example of what it means to keep going. So let's bring it back for them. We were talking about how you got to this point, and I love that you were starting us off in your amazingness when you were in college. But I'm also like, nah, sis, you got to bring us back. You got to bring us back to your background and where you came from and where, how has certain things made you who you are today. So I believe it's in Florida is where the story starts. Is that true, or did I mishear that along the one very short month we've been getting to know each other?
So I'm gonna go way back too, just to give you some principles and stuff that led me on this journey. Some people. Yeah. So it makes sense because the digital nomad lifestyle and just being a digital nomad, the point of it is being able to work remotely from anywhere, you're location independent, living life and working on your own terms. So this was a concept not in terms of digital nomadism, but for me it was always laid out in terms of freedom. You're looking for freedom. So that was what I was looking for at the time. I had graduated from high school. I was 19 and I was living in New York at the time, and I've been growing up in a military home with my mom being in the military. So moving around about every 3 or so years was not something that was new to me. And in fact, I was an international student overseas in the Caribbean. So having that experience of living, like being from the US and living and going to school in another country, I think that's honestly where it started from. It's just being able to see that you can live in an entirely new place, and that adaptation and life still continues. And there is that learning piece of just lifestyle. It was very much, life was non-traditional. It was very much, you're living, there's still reprimands and students being beaten in schools. You are, outdoors, the dogs are just roaming the streets. So it's a different lifestyle. And I think a lot of that has to do a lot with this desire for freedom and just being free. And it was a moment when I turned 21, and I thought that was life, like starting on my own. So I took the 5 major cities in the US. It was Detroit, Miami, New York, LA, and Chicago. And I put them in a bowl. I shuffled it up, and I said, whichever one comes out is where I'm moving to. And Miami came out, South Beach. So 3 weeks later, I packed up and I left, and I drove to Miami from New York to Miami. And that was the first, like, oh my gosh, am I doing it? And it was a lot of research that I had done, getting my car in the Amtrak train, to getting it down to Virginia, from Virginia, driving the rest of Florida, getting in Florida and figuring out where I'm living. So that was the start of a lot of this journey of traveling solo and figuring out, like, where to work, how do I get a job, how do I start over new in an entirely new place. That was it. So I'm in Miami, really navigating life. It didn't last there very long before coming back to New York and starting school. And that's when the journey of education started. So while I was in school, I was always studying things such as, like, international student affairs. I had this love and desire to just travel. And the path that I felt was going to get me there was in international student affairs. So I was really cultivating this path of getting Fulbright scholarships and interning at, certain areas, desiring the semester at sea. Like, it was this lifestyle that I was yearning for. And that's how I cultivated it through my studies at the university, and then propelling that into the jobs I was doing within higher education. So once I moved back from Florida, got into university setting, and I was in this mix of looking at what am I studying. I was studying performing arts at the time, and it was a field where people say, well, you're not going to make any money. So I said, okay, no money, no problem. I'm going to change it. Worst decision. So I changed it to communication. And that was the journey of what I now look back on it is unfulfillment. I was just doing it just for the sake of just getting out of school. Like, that was probably mistake number one, of not studying something I really, really, truly wanted to invest my money into, but just doing it for the sake of just getting out of school and living life. So I remember that moment of undergrad, 4-year university, being an RA was like something so new, and which is a resident assistant, resident advisor. And I just remember them saying, oh, you get your room paid for. And that's all I thought about. I was like, okay, free room and board. Let me go figure out what this is. It was the most transformative experience I've ever embarked on just in life. It taught me a lot of leadership skills. It taught me a lot about myself through connecting, event planning. And there was a lot of movement because you're moving from building to building, supervising these students, overseeing these students on this floor in this dorm. And that was also pings. It was creating this lifestyle of constantly moving. I'm in a new building. Next year I'm in this new hall. It's just always different. And I loved it. So I pursued it as an actual full-time career once I left, and went to grad school and studied higher education, which is essentially working in your administrator on a college campus. So the path that I took was working in university housing, and that is like your resident directors. And that piece was, I remember the best part of that job was being able to move to a new building. Like, I was excited to know where I was going to move for the next building, because again, it's the moving part that I got to pack up new things. I got to see a new location. I got to get newness of a new building, new staff, new students. It was always just this desire for newness and new stimuli, and just constant going through transition. Like, transition always seemed fun. So I remember that was the start of that piece, and being able to move from New York to California was when I got my dream, like the dream job, working in California, and finally being here. And like, wow, this place is amazing. when my contract ended after 3 years, I went back to Connecticut to be closer to family, then Florida. But then while I was in Florida is when I was like, there's no other place I've discovered that's like Florida, better than California. So I crafted this entire plan to come back to California. But I said at the moment when I was leaving Florida, it was, this is going to be my last job. Like, I'm just going to take a chance on life and just travel and then figure out traveling and what comes of it. So I didn't have a plan at first. And that's when I just took the leap into digital nomadism. And it was one of the scariest decisions, but in hindsight, now it's one of the best decisions because it led me to a very much deep healing within myself. And when I say healing, is because you're with yourself a lot. You are having to start life all over. You're meeting new people again, having to just be like, okay, let's go through the stages of talking, having a conversation, networking, and then everything's just so new. So new. Yeah. And you're constantly having to adapt to things. And I think that's what makes us such great people with great skills, because you have this ability to just really be flexible, adaptable, to just go with the flow, to connect with anybody from anywhere, to strike up a conversation. And all these skills really did come from a resident advisor position. I really do credit that entire experience for being here. So now that I am here, it's a beautiful place to be in, but it really did have its ups and downs as you're just navigating, one, where do you want to live? And so that's been always just really cultivating that piece of what do you want the lifestyle to look like? And so I wanted it to look like California, more fresh fruits and vegetables, people working out, just a happy place, the weather. So it comes down to when you choose this lifestyle, it's like very intentional planning. And so this is the start of just differentness.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for connecting the dots for us. Because again, like even when I first met you, I was like, girl, wait, first off, stop. What are we talking about? What's a digital nomad? So we'll come back to that again. But because you connected the dots, that allowed me to connect my dots to yours. And so again, meeting you for the first time, I was like, I haven't met anyone that feels so similar across the board. You know what I mean? So even starting out from the beginning, where you're like, I started in performing arts, you know, and then you got, and for some reason folks were telling you like you need a different degree because that's not going to happen. And so it's funny because that's what happened. We ended up getting the same degree, which is communication studies, right? Like, and I was, you know, my dot was that I was going to become a talk show host, and I, you know, qualifications wise, it should have been journalism, TV, radio, whatever the case. But I loved communication studies, you know, and I think, you know, for a long time, the story was like, ooh, I got the wrong degree. But let's be real. In reality, people struggle with communicating, you know, and to be able to capture those nuances, the nonverbal communication, the group think, you know, even the other day I was with my friend, we went to go get ice cream, and I didn't really realize like how much I'm able to observe and like listen to tone and nonverbal communication, and not only like observe it from the outside looking in, because eventually when we got to the counter, because I've been that person, I've been behind the bar many times, and I've had that tone of voice where I'm like, I run this stuff and y'all need to listen to me because the line goes this way, you know, and I ended up having like a lovely interaction with them because I know what it's like to be that person on the other side. And I knew what language, what tone, what way to like engage her and to just like be that different customer than anyone that they've had probably that whole day. And so then when we left, my friend was like, you were quite pleasant to them. I was like, because I've been her many times, you know what I mean? And like, don't get me wrong. Like I was like, oh, she's not having a good day. But I was also like, how can I walk in to the counter and be like, how can I make her day better? You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people, not to like bring the circle, but I was like, a lot of people forget how much power you have either in front of the bar or behind the bar, or in front of the transaction or behind the transaction. But I wouldn't have known how to do that if I didn't get my degree in communication studies and just having some language and theory behind certain things. And so again, in a world that's kind of losing some communication skills, I was like, I cannot say that I feel like it was the most perfect degree I could have gotten. So I just wanted to highlight that for you and I who have a similar degree, to be like, look, even though it seems a little silly, but it makes so much sense right now. And then further connecting the dot, I think what we're talking about, you know, when we were both RAs and resident assistants, resident advisors, I love that you connected it in a way. I think the difference here is your military background and your mom being in the military. And so it makes so much sense that you're like, I need to get out of here and I want to try these different things, and love moving from like different residence hall to different residence halls. And yeah, and I think it's the same experience. Like, we didn't really realize how much went into that work. And I do think that what's happening is we're trying to find a way to recreate that in this new world that we're in. But I want to tap into the transitional part, because you talked about how much you love transitions. And let's be real, most people don't really find them to be the favorite thing. A lot of people like comfortability, security. They like to know how to predict the next thing. But you're like, I love transitions. Tell me why you love transitions, and then we'll go into maybe some tidbits we can keep in mind for those who are probably going through a transition right now. So what do you love about transitions?
Right. So first, let me preface that I didn't always enjoy transitions. When I first started realizing it, was that whenever I would start a new job, within the first 3 months, I'd develop this, what feels like chaos, and I'd want to quit. But I studied it. And this comes back to this book that I was telling you about, the one thing, and just learning where my point of like automation within my mind, when things start to just feel like a habit and a routine. And so when I realized I would start new jobs, it was because, and I would hate it and want to quit, and I would start job searching, is because I was still in transition. I didn't really understand like where my automated button was. That I just needed to get over a certain number of days of doing the same thing over and over.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. I love that you shared that. I mean, I say that because, again, when I met you, you said that and reminded me of it, and I wrote a sticky note. I was all like, one thing for 66 days, so even that right now, just even being with you, I'm tracking I'm tracking up to 66 things in a day that I'm working on, to be like, hey, like, I've put in 66 efforts, like things that have been done towards what it means to possibly like start a business and like become an entrepreneur. So I really appreciate you for reminding me and us to like, hey, like, if that's something that you're interested in, read the book. It's called The One Thing, but like that there's a threshold to this. And we lost her again.
Wrapping it all up in terms of, or connecting the dots, should I say? Connecting the dots.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Between life and now. So with all that transitionary periods and
I just to snapshot this where you're at right now, since we are documenting this, tell us about like what has been moving and grooving for you in San Diego. What kinds of people have you been meeting, and like how is this vision unraveling for you? Yeah. I would be remiss if I don't mention this. So I think the big question for all of us is like, what do you, in terms of entrepreneurship, how are you making money while on the road and doing this? I think that's the whole point of the digital nomad part, right? And so I just want to make sure that we do talk about entrepreneurship. So I know that you're helping, how are you helping people? I mean, that is what business is to some extent, right? Like, how are you helping people and making money while you're on the road? I love that. And so, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. And how do you plan on turning the Digital Nomad and Digital Nomad Show into a business? How do you plan on turning the Digital Nomad Show into a business? Love that. What advice would you give to people if they want to pursue entrepreneurship? And my last question is, what is your definition of an entrepreneur? I love that. I love that definition. Thank you for sharing that. Again, it's a definition that is evolving, is changing, and is also unique to each person, and I think that's the same thing with the definition of success, right? So I love that you've continuously reminded us like, hey, design your life, design the setting of your life and how you want to live. And so I love that you have found San Diego, because that means that allowed us to connect. And I'm so happy that it's providing you the life that you want to live, and I'm just so excited of like what's to come with the Digital Nomad Show and like just what you're going to be creating here. Again, I want more. First and foremost, how can people like get in touch with you? How can they start learning more about you and what you're doing, especially if they're in San Diego or if they're currently traveling the world and they want to find their way over here? Yeah, I love that. I love that. Is there any last thoughts, any last words of wisdom that you want to share for folks who are wanting to pursue this kind of lifestyle? So Kenise, thank you so much first off, for your perseverance through this show. And thank you so much for just being here. I'm so excited that, again, that we got the chance to connect. I'm excited of what we're building together while building our own dreams, while helping others build theirs, because that's the lesson right there. And so, again, y'all, I don't know if y'all know this, but I'm in the process of following right behind Kenise one way or another. So, us doing this right here is a part of that process. And so, actually, if you want to go check that out, I'm actually going to be starting a new relaunch of an old YouTube channel called No Shortcuts, where I'm going to be showing the process of what it means to become an entrepreneur, but also a digital nomad. And Kenise is watching it firsthand, in person, full witness. And it's just so exciting to have folks that are a step ahead, 2 steps ahead, 3 steps ahead, to guide us along on our journey. And again, that's the whole point of connecting the dots, y'all, is that there's folks that you can, first off, you are in a place to help right now. That there are steps ahead that you are from someone who's coming up behind you. And so it's important for us to leave some breadcrumbs to be like, hey, like, this is how I did it. And pick the breadcrumbs you want best for yourself, but this is what I did and this is my suggestion. But at the end of the day, just know that I'm here, that I exist, and that I'm doing it, and that if you want to learn from me, if you want to learn from Kenise, you can, so make sure to go follow Kenise on the Digital Nomad Show on all platforms, as she is in the process of building this dream of hers. Again, Kenise, thank you so much for being here, and I will be seeing you very, very soon. All right, sis. I know, like, very soon, like in an hour. I'm just kidding. Yes. All right, sis. I know you're looking at that sun, so go ahead and get out there with Oliver, and I'll be seeing you very soon. Love you. Bye. All right, y'all. Again, this episode, I'm just gonna be completely real with you. This episode was a struggle episode, and it just reminded me, like, hey, there needs to be some other pieces in place to make sure that we are providing the best episode we possibly can for our viewers. But like I said, to be transparent with y'all, we were just having tech difficulties because she's a digital nomad. She is recording in her car. She had her little hotspot situation, in which I love, and I'm like, yes, let me remind myself of that for the future. But now I'm, having to think, like, first off, how can we? I'm just starting to problem solve, right? And but it's also just a testament to, like, that's the life that she's living. Like, the quietest place that she can record is in her car with little baby Oliver in the back. And so, I mean, it is what it is. And it was such a great test for both of us to be like, hey, you can either keep going and working through this and getting through these bumps and these bruises, or you can quit, you know what I mean? Or you can redirect, And so this was just it just seems so, like, fitting that this is happening with Kenise. I'm so happy that happened with Kenise because that's my sister. But, like, yeah, y'all, this is a new connection and a new dot in my life. And I'm just so excited to, like, know her and be with her and to see what she's building here with the Digital Nomad Show. Again, when you talk to her and you get to know her, then a lot of times that's not a term that a lot of people know. And so I will hope to be in her place one day and traveling with her. So, we'll be coming back around and probably making some things for all of you and making sure that if this is a lifestyle that you want to live, that we can potentially be your guides in that process. But again, y'all, this is a space where I'm looking for these educators in these streets, right? Like, not in the system, but in these streets, because we're just trying to meet you on both ends to let you know that you are not alone in this journey. And even though you may feel alone sometimes, that this is a place that I'm curating and cultivating people that can guide you in your process through your transitions, and more importantly, supporting you in building those foundational life skills that can support you no matter what you go through, y'all. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode, as messy as it could have been and is, and that's totally okay. But this is a part of the process, and just being able to enjoy ourselves in the process, I think, is a part of it. But more importantly, is who's coming along for the journey. And I want to just reiterate that again. A lot of times they say it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Well, actually, what's more important is the company you keep. And it's the company that's coming along with you on that journey. So Kenise is one of those people for me, y'all. And so I hope that you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, go ahead and subscribe if you'd like. If you want to give it a thumbs up, perfectly awesome and amazing. I really appreciate it. If not, that is totally okay too. But if you want to follow me, I haven't even been plugging myself, y'all. If you want to follow me on social media, you can follow me at K.Short on Instagram. That's going to be the best place to catch me over there. But yeah, you can also listen to this on Spotify. You can continue to watch this on YouTube. And if you all have any guests that you would love to be on the show, make sure to leave it in the comments below. I'd love to get to know folks all around the world because we are in process of becoming a digital nomad. So I just want to tell you this. I'm going to tell you this right now. I have planned and an intent of visiting you. This is literally why I have Kenise in my corner right now, because I want to come visit you. So, of course, connecting to some folks, some educators in these streets that are in your city so that we can collaborate and see how we can best serve you in your city very, very soon. All right, y'all, I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time and attention. It does not go unnoticed. I know that you could be anywhere else in the world right now, but you're here with me in this little corner of the internet, and I so much appreciate it. All right, y'all. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path. And that will make